He humiliated her, in front of everyone, but by sunrise, she held everything he ever built in the palm of her hand. She carried his coffee with a smile. He never looked twice. That was his first mistake, and before the night was over, it would also be his last. This is a story about dignity, silence, and the kind of revenge that doesn't make noise. It makes history. Stay until the end. The final chapter will leave you breathless. The rain came down hard on Millfield that Thursday evening. The kind of rain that turned streets into mirrors and made the whole town look like something out of a dream. Inside Caruso's, the most expensive restaurant on the west side of the city, the lights were warm. The wine was older than most marriages. And the noise was the comfortable hum of people who had never once worried about money. My Ellison between bullsing its pathke, efficient investissement. She had been working at Caruso's for 3 years. She knew which table liked extra bread, which regulars preferred their steak under-seasoned, and which couples were fighting even when they smiled. She read people the way some folks read the news, quickly, accurately, and without judgment. She was 31. She had a daughter named Cora, 7 years old, who drew horses on everything, walls, receipts, the backs of Maya's hands. She had a studio apartment, 17 minutes from the restaurant, and a journal she wrote in every night before sleeping. What she did not have, what nobody in that restaurant thought to consider, was a last name that meant something. Not yet. Table 9 changed everything. The reservation had come in 2 days prior, under the name *Hargrove, party of 6. Maya had noted it without thinking much of it. Large parties were common on Thursdays. But when the group arrived at 7:40 p.m., the room shifted slightly. Even the other servers noticed. There was something about the way Daniel Hargrove walked through a door, like the door had been waiting for him. He was 53. Silver at his temples, jaw like carved stone, suit the color of midnight. He was the kind of man who made other men straighten their backs without meaning to. His company, Hargrove Capital, had its name on 3 buildings downtown and a reputation that preceded it into every room. He had been on the cover of Regional Business Quarterly, twice. He had an ex-wife, a son in London, and the unshakable belief that the world sorted people into 2 categories, those who mattered and those who served. Maya approached table 9 with menus and water. Good evening. Welcome to Caruso's. My name is. We know how this works, Daniel said, not looking up from his phone. She smiled anyway, poured the water, set down the menus. It was when she reached for his glass that he finally glanced at her. The way someone glances at a piece of furniture they're mildly inconvenienced by. Just bring the Barolo. The 2015, and don't let it breathe too long. Last time your people ruined it. Your people. Maya nodded, turned, walked calmly to the wine station. Her hand, just for a moment, was perfectly still. The kind of still that comes just before something starts moving. At the far end of the bar, a man Maya had never seen before was watching table 9 carefully. He had a notebook. He had been nursing the same glass of water for 40 minutes, and when elle queda notre, and something in his expression said he had already figured out something she hadn't yet. Maya had a rule she made for herself on her very first night at Caruso's. Never let them see it land. Whatever they said, however they said it. The careless words, the snapping fingers, the way some people looked at her like she was part of the wallpaper, none of it was allowed to land. Nor visibly. Not on the floor of that restaurant. She could feel it later. In the car, in the shower, in the journal with the torn cover that sat on her nightstand next to her. Photo of Cora holding a plastic horse like it was made of gold. But noir. No. She uncorked the Barolo with the precision of someone who had done it 10,000 times and carried it to table 9 on a small tray. Her posture straight, her face composed. Daniel Hargrove was holding court. His voice carried, not because he was loud, but because he spoke like a man who had never once considered that his words might not be welcome. The Coldwell deal is already dead, he was saying to the younger man across from him. Marcus just doesn't know it yet. By Friday, we move the assets, and Marcus wakes up to find the ground gone from under him. He paused, accepted his wine glass without acknowledgement, swirled it, sipped. Acceptable, he said, in Maya's direction, as if grading her. The woman to his left, polished, late 40s. The kind of tired that lives behind expensive makeup, caught Maya's eye for just a fraction of a second. Something passed between them, recognition, maybe. Or apologie. Maya refilled the water glasses and stepped back. That was when Daniel's associate, young, eager, the kind of man who laughed 2 seconds after his boss laughed, leaned in and said something low. Daniel's response was not low at all. No, leave her. She's just a waitress. They don't remember anything, anyway. The table laughed. No, I loved them, the woman had been off. Maya walked back to the service station. Her colleague, Dre, was there, polishing glasses. And he looked at her with the particular expression of someone who had also heard. Usually, he asked quietly. Fine, she said. Unsure. Or she was performing fine so well that the difference had stopped mattering. What neither of them noticed was that the man at the end of the bar had written something in his notebook. His name was Thomas Reed. He was a freelance, investigative journalist, the kind who worked slowly, carefully, and without bylines, until the story was airtight. He had been following Daniel Hargrove for 11 weeks. He had documents. He had sources. He had a story that, when it broke, would crackle down the middle gold wood. What he had not had, until tonight, was the right angle. Stories about powerful men and financial crimes were common. They were important, but they were cold, numbers on pages. People scrolled past them. But a story about what power looked like up close, how it moved through a room, how it is always different. That was something people felt. Thomas closed his notebook and left his card on the bar. On the back, he had written 4 words in small, clean print. Asterisk, I saw what happened. Asterisk. He left it where Maya would find it when she cleared his spot. She found it 40 minutes later. Between his empty water glass and a $5 bill left as a tip despite never ordering food. She read the 4 words twice, turned the card over. Redzenam. She did not throw it away. She slid it into the pocket of her apron, next to the folded drawing Cora had given her that morning, a horse standing alone in a field. With a sun so large, it took up half the page. A table done without the menu. He had no idea that the night was just beginning. The dinner rush thinned out by 9:30. Tables cleared, candles burned lower. The rain outside had softened to something quieter. Just a whisper against the glass, like the city was trying not to interrupt. Maya was rolling silverware at the back station when her manager, Glenn, appeared beside her. Glenn was a compact man with a clipboard he carried like a shield and a habit of delivering bad news in. the same tone he used for everything else. Table 9 asked, for you specifically, he said. Maya looked up. Asked for me. Hargrove. He wants to compliment the service. Apparently, Glenn shrugged like he found this mildly inconvenient. Just go, smile, be quick. She set down the silverware, smoothed her apron, walked. Table 9 was down to 3 now. The tired-eyed woman had gone. 2 of the associates had gone. What remained was Daniel Hargrove, his eager young colleague, whose name Maya had learned was Brett, and a half-empty bottle of the Barolo. Daniel looked up when she approached. This time, he actually looked, not through her, not past her, but at her. Like he was seeing her for the first time and finding it mildly surprising that she had a face. You've been our server all evening, he said. Yes, sir. You're good. He said it the way someone might compliment a well-functioning elevator. Efficient. You don't hover. I respect that. Thank you. Brett smiled the smile of someone who wanted credit for his boss's good mood. Daniel leaned back in his chair. What's your name? A pause, small but real. Maya. Maya. He repeated it like he was deciding if it was worth remembering. How long have you been doing this? 3 years here. Before that, 2 years at the Fenwick downtown. Something moved behind his eyes. Calculation, maybe. Or the particular interest of a man who had just realized a chess piece could move in a direction he hadn't considered. The Fenwick. He nodded slowly. Good room. I've had meetings there. He paused. You enjoy this work? And there it was. The question underneath the question. The one that really meant, asterisk. Is this all you are? Maya smiled. The practiced one. The one that gave nothing away. I enjoy people, she said. Every table has a story. Daniel studied her for a moment. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed, genuinely, not performed, and pointed at her like she'd said something clever. That's a good answer, he said. Then, to Brett, she's smarter than half the people I hired this quarter. Brett laughed on cue. Maya kept her smile in place. Asterisk, there it is. Asterisk, she thought. Asterisk, the compliment that's still a cage. Asterisk. Smarter than the people he hired. Not smart enough to hire. Not a person in the room. A pleasant surprise in the room. A waitress who spoke well. An exception to his rule rather than proof that his rule was wrong. She thanked him. She asked if they needed anything else. They did not. Walking back to the service station, she passed the spot where Thomas Reed had sat. His card was still in her apron pocket. She could feel the edge of it against her fingertips. Dre fell into step beside her. What did he want? To tell me I was good at my job. Dre was quiet for a moment, and Maya looked back once at table 9. Daniel Hargrove was already on his phone again, already moved on. Already somewhere else entirely. And nothing, she said. But her hand was in her apron pocket. And her fingers were wrapped around that card. She made a decision in that moment, the kind that doesn't announce itself. Doesn't feel large, doesn't come with any sound at all. She took out her phone. Typed a message to the number on the card. This is Maya, from Caruso's. I think I might have a story for you. She hit send before she could think twice. Across the restaurant, table 9 settled their bill. Daniel Hargrove left a 15% tip. He did not leave his name. He didn't think he needed to. Thomas Reed responded in for minutes. Asterisk. Can you meet tomorrow? Somewhere quiet. Not near the restaurant. Asterisk. Maya stared at the message in the dim light of her car. Engine running. The heater pushing warm air against the cold that had followed her out of Caruso's. The street outside was empty. The rain had finally stopped, leaving everything slick and shining under the streetlights. She typed back. Asterisk. There's a coffee shop on Mercer. Groundwork. 10 a.m. Asterisk. His response came immediately. Asterisk. I'll be there. Asterisk. She set the phone on the passenger seat and sat with the silence for a moment. Cora would be asleep by now, her babysitter Mrs. Patton dozing in the armchair with the television low. The apartment would smell like the lavender candle Maya kept on the kitchen windowsill. Normal, safe, smile. She pulled out of the parking lot and told herself she was just going to listen, just hear what he had to say. Patois allemand. Groundwork coffee was the kind of place that took its oat milk seriously and kept the music just low enough that conversations stayed private. Thomas Reed was already there when Maya arrived, sitting in the back corner with 2 coffees and that same notebook. Up close, he was younger than she'd estimated the night before, mid-30s, sharp eyes behind simple glasses. The kind of person who listened more than they spoke, which, Maya had learned, was either a gift or a warning depending on the person. Thank you for coming, he said. She sat, wrapped both hands around the coffee cup. You said you saw what happened, she said. What exactly did you see? Thomas opened his notebook. I've been investigating Daniel Hargrove for nearly 3 months. Financial misconduct. Specifically, a pattern of asset manipulation that has quietly destroyed for small businesses in this city in the last 2 years. He paused. People lost everything. People who worked hard. People who trusted the wrong contracts. Maya was quiet. I have documents, he continued. I have 2 sources willing to speak on background. What I don't have, he slid a photograph across the table, is this. The photograph was taken inside Caruso's. It was slightly grainy, clearly from a phone, but clear enough. It showed Daniel Hargrove at table 9, mid-sentence, and in the frame, just at the edge, was Maya, standing still, holding a tray. I've been watching him in public spaces for weeks, Thomas said. The way he operates in rooms, the way he treats people, the language he uses, it tells a story that the financial documents alone can't tell. Last night gave me something I didn't expect. Which was what? Thomas looked at her directly. A witness who was in the room when he discussed the Caldwell deal out loud. Zuer shifted. Maya set down her coffee cup very carefully. I wasn't eavesdropping, she said. You didn't have to. He said it loud enough that 3 other tables could have heard it. Thomas leaned forward slightly. Maya, what he said last night about moving assets before Marcus Caldwell finds out, that's not just arrogance. That's insider coordination. C'est outlu, in a restaurant, because he genuinely believed one who mattered was listening. The sentence settled over her like cold water. Asterisk no one who mattered. Asterisk. What would you need from me? Je asked. A formal account. What you heard, word for word, timestamp to the evening, signed, notarized if possible. He paused. I want to be honest with you. This won't be comfortable. His lawyers are aggressive. His reach in this city is significant. If your name is attached to this. What happens to him? She interrupted. If the story runs, what actually happens? Thomas held her gaze. The SEC gets involved. His current acquisitions freeze. The Caldwell deal collapses before it closes. A beat. And Hargrove Capital, everything he's spent 20 years building, goes under review that it will not survive. Maya looked down at the photograph. At the edge of the frame. At herself, standing there with a tray, invisible. Her jaw tightened. I have a daughter, she said quietly. She's 7. To mano dead. Senoting. I need 3 days, Maya said. I need to make sure she's protected first. Tenwe talk. She stood, picked up her coffee. Ten estupid. He said we don't remember anything. Her voice was calm, completely calm. Waitresses. Thomas said nothing. Juste what shed. He was wrong, she said. She walked out into the morning light. And somewhere across the city, in a glass office, on the 14th floor, Daniel Hargrove was on the phone, laughing, certain, completely unaware that the ground beneath him had just begun to move. The 3 days Maya asked for changed everything. Not because of what she found out about Daniel Hargrove. Because of what she found out about herself. It started with a phone call on Friday morning from a woman named Sylvia Crane. The name meant nothing to Maya, at first, just a voice on the other end of the line. Measured and precise, like someone who chose every word the way a surgeon chose instruments. My name is Sylvia Crane, the woman said. I was at table 9 on Thursday evening. I believe you were our server. Maya gripped the phone. Yes, I remember you. I need to meet with you. A pause. Privately. Today, if possible. This is not about the restaurant. They met at a park, 2 miles from Maya's apartment. Sylvia arrived in a dark coat, no jewelry. The kind of understated appearance that suggested she was deliberately trying not to be noticed. Up close, the tired eyes Maya had seen at table 9 were sharper than tired. They were watchful, guarded, the eyes of someone who had been careful for a very long time. They sat on a bench near the fountain. Sylvia folded her hands in her lap and looked straight ahead. Daniel Hargrove is my brother-in-law, she said. Maya said nothing, waited. My sister married him 19 years ago. She left him for years ago with nothing, because the alternative was worse. Sylvia's voice did not waver, but something beneath it did. I have stayed close to him professionally, because distance was not safe, because men like Daniel don't release people cleanly. They keep leverage. Why are you telling me this? Sylvia turned to look at her then. Full and direct. Because I know who you are, Maya. The fountain ran quietly between them. I don't understand, Maya said. Your mother's name was Claire Ellison. Before that, Claire Maddox. Sylvia's voice softened by a fraction. Claire Maddox was my closest friend for 11 years. We worked together at the first firm Daniel ever ran, before Hargrove Capital, before any of this. Back when he was just a man with ambition and no ethics to contain it. Maya's chest tightened. Her mother had died 6 years ago, quietly, a small funeral, a smaller grave. A woman who had worked 3 jobs and never once complained about any of them. Your mother, Sylvia continued carefully, helped build the financial foundation of what became Hargrove Capital. She was brilliant. She structured the first 3 investment frameworks that made him credible to serious money. A pause. He never credited her, never compensated her beyond her base salary. When she raised concerns about his methods, he had her removed, quietly, efficiently, the way he does everything. The world tilted slightly. Maya stared at the fountain. "She never told me," she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "She protected you," Sylvia said. She knew what he was capable of. She took the loss, and she walked away, and she built something smaller, and honest and entirely hers. She paused. "You." The silence stretched long and full. "There is something else," Sylvia said. She reached into her coat and produced a sealed envelope. Cream-colored, old, Maya's name was written on the front, in handwriting she recognized immediately, the looping. Careful letters of her mother's hand. "Claire gave this to me 8 years ago," Sylvia said quietly. "She told me to give it to you if the time ever came that Daniel Hargrove's name crossed your path." She placed it on the bench between them. "I'd say the time has come." Maya looked at the envelope for a long moment. She picked it up, felt the weight of it, heavier than paper had any right to be. "What's inside?" she asked. Sylvia stood, buttoned her coat. "Everything your mother kept," she said. "Every document, every record, every proof of what she built and what he took." She looked down at Maya, with something that was not quite pity, and not quite pride, but lived somewhere between the two. "Your mother was not just a woman he overlooked, Maya. She was a founder. And she left you the evidence to prove it." She walked away through the park, her footsteps quiet on the wet path. Maya sat alone on the bench with the envelope in both hands. Inside it was not just her mother's story. Inside it was the key to Daniel Hargrove's empire. And the lock had been waiting for 20 years. Maya did not open the envelope that night. She put Cora to bed first. Read her to pages of the horse book they had been working through for weeks. Watched her daughter's eyes go heavy, and then still, her small hand curled under her chin like a question mark. She stood in the doorway for a long time after. Then she went to the kitchen table, made tea she did not drink, and sat down with the envelope in front of her. She opened it slowly. The way you open something you cannot unopen. Inside was a document wallet, the old-fashioned kind with the elastic cord closure, worn soft at the corners from years of handling. Inside that, papers, printed emails, handwritten notes on yellow legal paper, photographs of whiteboards covered in frameworks and figures, a USB drive taped to a folded sheet with a single line written beneath it in her mother's handwriting. Asterisk, "I built this. I have proof. I never used it because I chose peace. You choose what you need to. Asterisk." Maya pressed her hand flat against the page. Her mother had been 44 when she died. Worn down in ways Maya had attributed to life, to single parenthood, to the particular exhaustion of a woman who carried everything alone and made it look like a choice. She had worked as a bookkeeper in her final years, a quiet job, a safe job, a job that asked nothing of her extraordinary mind. Maya had never once thought to ask why. She stayed at the table until 2 in the morning, reading everything. The documents told a story with the cold clarity of facts. Her mother, Claire Ellison, had joined Daniel Hargrove's first venture, a small private equity firm called Maddox Hargrove Partners, as a co-architect. The name on the door had been both of theirs once. The frameworks she designed, the investor language she crafted, the risk models she built from scratch, they were all there, dated, signed, original. Then came the emails. 2002-1410 emails Tom Collegio dismissive. Requests for credit denied. Requests for equity, stake deflected. And then, a legal letter. Quiet, precise, devastating. Claire Ellison's name removed from all documentation. Her contributions absorbed into the company's founding narrative as anonymous background work. She had been erased. Not loudly, not dramatically, just removed. The way you remove a name from a door when no one is watching. Maya closed the folder and sat in the silence of her kitchen. She thought about her mother, bringing home grocery, store flowers on birthdays, because real ones were too expensive. She thought about the two-bedroom apartment they had shared until Maya was 16. The way her mother stayed up late at the kitchen table with her reading glasses on, always working, always making the numbers fit. She thought about the pride her mother never performed but always carried, quiet, internal, unshakable. She'd Maya réalisait. Claire had known exactly what she was worth. She had simply chosen not to go to war over it. That choice had cost her everything, and she had made it anyway. For Maya, for a life without the violence of men like Daniel Hargrove pulling at its edges. Maya pressed both hands over her face. She did not cry immediately. Breath came slowly, the rain grief, not a flood but a raising. Patient and inevitable. She cried for her mother. For the founder, who became a bookkeeper, for the name removed from the door. For every morning Claire Ellison had gotten up and gone to work, and said nothing and chosen peace instead of war. When it passait of hen. She looked at the USB drive. She looked at Thomas Reed's card beside it. She thought about Daniel Hargrove at table 9. The wine he found acceptable. The tip he did not feel the need to make generous. The words he said to Brett without lowering his voice. Asterisk, she's just a waitress. They don't remember anything anyway. Asterisk. Maya picked up the USB drive. She picked up her phone. She typed a message to Thomas at 2:17 in the morning. Asterisk, I have more than a witness account. I have everything. How soon can we meet? Shuitsan. Then she looked at Cora's drawing on the refrigerator, the horse, in the field. The enormous sun, and something in her face changed. No Angers. No greffe. Something quieter than both. Something that had been building for a very long time in a woman who had learned, from the best possible teacher, how to wait. Thomas Reed sat across from Maya the next morning and did not speak for a full minute after. She slid the document wallet across the table. He opened it carefully, read the first page. Then the second. His expression did not change dramatically. He was a man trained to receive information without reacting. But his hand stilled on the third page, in a way that told Maya everything she needed to know. Where did you get this? He asked quietly. My mother built it, Maya said, 30 years ago. She co-founded what became Hargrove Capital and was erased from it before it had a name anyone recognized. Thomas set the papers down slowly, took off his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose, in the particular way of someone recalibrating everything they thought they knew about a story. Maya, he chose his words carefully. If these documents are authenticated, and I believe they can be, this isn't just a financial misconduct story anymore. No. This is founding fraud. This is intellectual theft documented across a decade. This changes the entire legal architecture of Hargrove Capital. He paused. It means the company was never solely his to begin with. The coffee shop hummed around them. Someone ordered something with too many instructions at the counter. Outside, the city moved at its ordinary pace, completely unaware. "There's more," Maya said. She placed the USB drive on the table. Thomas looked at it. "What's on it?" "I don't know everything. I went through part of it last night." She folded her hands. "There are audio files. My mother recorded 3 of them. One is between her and Daniel Hargrove in 2004, the year she was pushed out. In it, he explicitly acknowledges her contribution to the firm's foundation, a beat, and then tells her that if she pursues any claim, he will make sure she never works in finance again." The silence that followed was the kind that precedes something large. Thomas put his glasses back on. He looked at Maya the way people look at something they weren't prepared to find, with a mixture of recognition and something close to awe. "He threatened her," Thomas said. "He threatened her," Maya confirmed. And she believed him. Because she had a 6-year-old daughter and no safety net and a man with resources she couldn't match. She paused. So she walked away. She kept the evidence. And she spent the rest of her life making sure I never had to be afraid of anything. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. "I need to bring in a colleague," he finally said. "Anna Tournay. She works with whistleblower cases, and she is exceptional. Nothing moves without your full consent. I want to be clear about that. You control this story. You control the timeline." Maya nodded. "There's something else you need to know," Thomas said carefully. He reached into his own folder and produced a document. "Cela est dit à Caruso. I've been sitting on this for 2 weeks waiting for the right moment to verify it." Maya looked down. It was a corporate filing, recent, dated 6 weeks prior. Hargrove Capital had quietly begun restructuring. Assets were being moved into a secondary, holding company, one with a different name, a different address, and a board composed entirely of people whose names meant nothing to anyone outside a very specific circle. "He's preparing an exit," Thomas said. "He knows something is coming, not us specifically, I don't think, but regulatory pressure has been building. He's moving his most valuable assets out of Hargrove Capital's legal reach before anything can freeze them." Maya read the filing twice. "How long does he have before the restructure is complete?" "Je asked." At the current pace, Thomas checked his notes. 18 days. 18 days. Maya set the document down. Her mother's mind, it turned out, being else. "If the story breaks before the restructure completes, everything freezes in place," Thomas said. "The assets stay inside Hargrove Capital's legal structure, which means they're accessible to any claim your mother's estate might have against the original founding agreement." Maya looked at him steadily. "My mother's estate," she said slowly, "is me." Thomas held her gaze. "Yes." Outside, the city continued its ordinary morning. Cars, coffee, people walking quickly with their heads down against the cold. Inside, something that had been set in motion 30 years ago by a woman sitting at a late night kitchen table finally found the moment it had been built for. Maya picked up the USB drive and closed her fingers around it. 18 days, she said. 18 days, Thomas confirmed. She stood, pulled on her coat. "Then we don't wait," she said. The story broke on a Tuesday. Not with a headline. Not with a press conference. With a single article published at 6 a.m. on the investigative platform. Thomas's outlet, used for its most significant work. Clean, sourced, precise. The kind of journalism that does not shout because it does not need to. The title was simple. The Erased Founder, How Daniel Hargrove Built an Empire on a Woman's Work and a Threat. By 6:47 a.m. it had been shared 400 times. By 8 a.m., 1,200. By 9:30 a.m. the phones at Hargrove Capital's downtown office had been ringing, without pause for 90 minutes, and 3 separate financial journalists were standing on the pavement, outside the building in the cold. Maya knew none of this in real time. She was at Cora's school drop-off, watching her daughter run toward the entrance with her backpack bouncing, turning once to wave with the complete and uncomplicated joy of a 7-year-old who had no idea that the world was shifting on its axis. Maya waved back, held it together until the door closed. Then she sat in her car and read the article for the 4th time. Thomas had done everything he promised. Her mother's name was in the 2nd paragraph, not as a footnote, not as a background detail, but as what she was. Affondée, habilée, a woman of extraordinary capability who had been systematically removed from the history of something she helped create. The documents were referenced. The audio recordings were quoted sparingly, but devastatingly. The 2000 for conversation in which Daniel Hargrove told Claire Ellison to walk away or face consequences was described in enough detail that there was no reading it without understanding exactly what kind of man he was. Maya's name appeared once, near the end, as the daughter who preserved her mother's records. Thomas had protected her as much as the story allowed. Erfon Bezed, Thomas. Asterisk. It's moving fast. SEC, inquiry confirmed as of 1 hour ago. Asset restructure has been flagged and frozen by the filing court. Hugh Shulk no have ready. They're calling it fabricated. Asterisk. She typed back. Asterisk let them. Asterisk. She drove to Caruso's for her afternoon shift because she had a shift and because normal life did not pause for justice. She tied her apron. She filled water glasses. She smiled at table 4 and recommended the branzino to table 7. At 4:15 p.m., Glenn appeared at the service station with an expression she had never seen on him before. Somewhere between stunned and uncertain. "There's someone here to see you," he said. "He asked for you by name. He's at the bar." Maya already knew. She walked out of the service corridor and into the main room. Daniel Hargrove was sitting at the bar in a suit that was slightly less perfect than usual. His tie was loosened by a fraction. His phone was face down on the bar top, which, Maya suspected, was because he could not bear to watch it anymore. He looked older than he had 6 days ago at table 9. Not dramatically. Juste en ougue. He turned when she approached. And for the first time since she had known his name, Daniel Hargrove looked at Maya Ellison like she was the most important person in the room. "Sit down," she said quietly. Not a request. Esat. She remained standing. She did not get him water. She did not hand him a menu. "I know why you're here," she said. "I want to explain," he began. "I'm going to stop you there." Her voice was even. Warm room temperature, completely controlled. "There is nothing you can explain to me that changes what is already in motion. The documents are authenticated. The recordings are verified. The SEC inquiry is open. She paused. What my mother built is part of your company's legal foundation. That foundation now has a question attached to it that your lawyers cannot make go away. Daniel's jaw tightened. Something moved behind his eyes. She watched it happen. The precise moment a powerful man recalculates and finds the numbers no longer work in his favor. Your mother and I had an agreement, he said carefully. My mother had a threat, Maya said. There's a difference. Silence. She was remarkable, he said. And the terrible thing, the thing that made Maya's chest tighten involuntarily, was that he meant it, genuinely. The way people mean things to late and to privately to matter. Yes, Maya said. Sure. She let that sit between them for a moment. Long enough for him to feel the full weight of what he had wasted. She deserved better than what you gave her, Maya said. And so did every person whose business you quietly destroyed on your way to the 14th floor. She leaned forward slightly. You sat at that table last week and said I was just a waitress. That we don't remember anything. Daniel said nothing. My mother remembered everything, Mahaya said. She kept every document, every email, every recording. She kept it for 30 years, and she gave it to me, and I remembered every word you said at table 9. She straightened. Sodiche. The bar was quiet around them. Dre was pretending to polish glasses at the far end. Glenn had not moved from the service doorway. Daniel Hargrove looked at Maya for a long moment. Then he looked down at his hands and said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. Maya untied her apron, folded it neatly on the bar in front of him, looked at him one final time. I think you can find your own way out, she said. She walked back through the service corridor, pushed open the back door, and stepped into the cold, evening air. She tipped her head back, breathed. Above her, the sky was going dark at the edges. The last light of the day pulling back slowly from the city like it had somewhere better to be. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was Sylvia Crane. Toi. She'd be proud. 6 months later, Maya sat at a kitchen table. Not the small one in the studio apartment with the lavender candle on the windowsill. A different table, wider, solid oak, second-hand. Bought from an estate sale 2 towns over because it reminded her of something she couldn't name until she got it home and realized. It looked like the kind of table her mother would have chosen. The apartment was bigger now, not extravagant. Juste un auge. 2 bedrooms. A window in the kitchen that caught the morning light at an angle that made everything look briefly golden. And enough wall space for Cora to tape up every horse drawing she had produced in the last 6 months without the place feeling crowded. There were many drawings. Outside, the city moved at its ordinary pace, unhurried, indifferent, beautiful. In the way cities are beautiful when you are no longer afraid of them. Maya wrapped both hands around her coffee cup and looked at the folder open on the table in front of her. The legal process had been neither fast nor simple. Thomas had warned her it wouldn't be. The attorney he introduced her to, a sharp, quiet woman named Patience Okafor, who wore the same 3 blazers in rotation and won cases with the consistency of weather, had said the same thing in their first meeting. This will take time, Patience had said. He will fight it. His lawyers are expensive and experienced, and they will try to make you feel small. She had looked at Maya steadily. Don't let them. Maya had not let them. The SEC inquiry had moved with the particular momentum of an institution that does not hurry, but does not stop. The asset freeze held. The restructuring Hargrove had attempted was unwound by court order. Each piece returned to its original legal position like furniture moved back after a flood. Hargrove Capital did not survive the review, intact. It could not. The founding fraud at its core meant that every structure built upon it carried the same flaw, a crack running from the foundation all the way to the 14th floor. Daniel Hargrove had not gone to prison. Not yet. The investigation was ongoing. Patients had explained carefully, and these things moved at their own pace, but his assets were frozen. His reputation was gone, not damaged, gone. The way of fire doesn't damage a piece of paper so much as replace it with something unrecognizable. He had resigned from his own company in February. The announcement photograph. No interview. Maya had read it once and felt, not triumph. Something quieter. The particular stillness of a door finally closing. What the settlement had given her was not a number, she discussed openly. What it represented was simpler than a number. It was her mother's contribution, formally acknowledged, legally documented, entered into the record in language that could not be removed or minimized or forgotten. Claire Ellison, née Maddox, co-architect of the financial frameworks that formed the foundation of Maddox Hargrove Partners, later Hargrove Capital. Her name was back on the door. Not a physical door, but the only door that had ever mattered. The one that opened into the record of what she had actually done with her extraordinary life. Maya had framed the legal acknowledgement. It hung in the hallway of the new apartment, between Cora's drawings and a photograph of Claire taken sometime in her early 30s, young, slightly blurred at the edges, laughing at something outside the frame with her whole face. Cora had asked about it once. Is that Grandma Claire? Yes, Maya had said. What's she laughing at? Maya had looked at the photograph for a long moment. I think, she said slowly, she's laughing because she knows something the other people in the room don't know yet. Cora had accepted this completely, the way children accept things that are true without needing them explained further. She had nodded and gone back to her drawing. Thomas had published a follow-up piece in April, longer, deeper, focused on the broader pattern, the other businesses, quietly, destroyed. The other people pushed aside, the architecture of assumption that allowed a man to build an empire on other people's foundations. Simply because he had never once been asked to justify himself. It had been read widely, it had started conversations. It had not changed everything. But it had changed something. That was enough. It had to be enough. Maya had learned that from her mother too, the discipline of accepting what was enough and not spending your life grieving what wasn't. She looked at the folder on the table. Inside, it was something new entirely. Not documents from the past. Not evidence of something taken. A business plan, hers, 6 months in the making, drafted late at night at this very table after Cora was asleep. Reviewed by patients, reviewed by a financial advisor, Thomas had introduced her to. Revised and refined and made real by the slow patient work of a woman who had inherited her mother's mind and finally had the space to use it. A small investment consultancy ethical sourcing, transparent frameworks, clients who were small business owners, independent founders, people who needed sophisticated financial guidance and had always been told it wasn't for them. It was not Hargrove Capital. It was the opposite of Hargrove Capital. It was what her mother might have built if the world had been different. Maya closed the folder, stood, walked to the hallway, and looked at the photograph of Claire, young, laughing, knowing something. I figured it out, Maya said quietly to the photograph. What you were laughing at. She touched the frame once, gently. You already knew it would end up here. She went back to the kitchen, picked up her coffee, looked out the window at the morning light, doing what it did every day, arriving without asking permission, filling the room with something warm and unhurried, and entirely free. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Cora's school. A reminder about the spring showcase next Friday. Cora had signed up to present a drawing. Maya smiled, typed back a confirmation. Then she sat down, opened the folder, and got to work. Not because she had something to prove. Because she had something to build. Antiteam the door from the vervening. If this story moved you, if you saw your mother in Maya, or yourself, or someone you love who was told they weren't enough, then this next part is for you. Right now, somewhere in this world, there is a woman carrying evidence of her own greatness in silence, waiting for the right moment, hoping someone will finally see what she built. Don't let her wait alone. Share this story. Because the people who need it most are rarely the ones who go looking for it. They're the ones it finds. And if you stayed until the very last line, you already know why this story matters. Subscribe. Because next would be more amazing. And trust me, you are not ready.